The death of Queen Victoria symbolized the end of happiness for the Victorian people as their era of artistic ideas and new movements came to an end. Queen Victoria associated with Britain's great age of industrial expansion, economic progress, and empire. She was a warm-hearted and lively person. She also had a gift for drawing and painting. The Victorian era lasted from 1837 to 1901. During her reign, she tried to support peace and reconciliation. Her death made people stop writing about positive ideals and slowly progressed into a more depressing time which led to World War I. The death of Queen Victoria was a door to a depressing era. This became the modern era.
World War I began in 1914 with the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary. This gave Austria-Hungary and its ally Germany an excuse to attack Serbia. As each side gained allies, this conflict progressed into a giant world war, one that would last another 4 years until November 11, 1918. During World War I, huge advancements were made in weaponry, such as tanks, machine guns, poison gas airplanes, and U-boats, but of course this also meant the deaths of millions of soldiers. In Germany, the government told its people lies about the war in order to portray their country in a good light and increase nationalism. The government told people what to write about and censored information to only let the positive stuff out into the public. Punishment to those who depicted Germany poorly was also common. However, the soldiers who actually experienced the war knew how terrible it really was. While citizens at home heard wonderful news of glorious victories, soldiers on the battlefield actually witnessed the bloodshed. Some of those soldiers had enough courage to defy their government and tell people the truth about the war. One of those soldiers was Erich Maria Remarque, who actually experienced the war himself before being hospitalized for the rest of the war. During his hospitalization, he was probably motivated to speak the truth and talk about his own personal experiences. He wanted to show the people of Germany what the war was really like. Well, how does one talk about something that is so strongly censored by the very people who govern you? You write a book. Erich Maria Remarque's infamous novel, All Quiet on the Western Front, shows the reality of war and how truly devastating it can be. The main character, Paul Balmer, is a young man who enters the war thinking it will be a new and interesting, life-changing experience. Little does he know that the war would take away his youthful innocence as well as his humanity. Unfortunately, this is what happened to many of the young German men who entered the war. Remarque shows the true nature of war and trench warfare through his book. Many of the events in the book are also reflections of Remarque's life. For example, in the book, Paul has to carry his comrade Kat to the medics, only to discover with a horrible numbing pain that Kat is already dead by the time they reach the medic. It is now known that Remarque actually carried his buddy Trotsky out of enemy fire, but later his friend died of a head wound. Experiences like this motivated Remarque to share the truth about the war with others. And his book was so powerful and negative that Hitler himself had Remarque's and hundreds of other books banned and burned.
The Great Depression was a long, tough time in history. It happened from 1929 to 1939. It all started with the stock market crash in October 1929. The Great Depression affected everyone. From cities to farms, people lost their jobs and many lives changed. The unemployment rate rose extremely high. The Great Depression created a modern welfare state. It also created a major political realignment. Although the Great Depression was a hard and desperate time, it was a big inspiration to writers, causing it to be one of the most important times in American literature. Writers looked to the economy as inspiration. Poverty spread to many people, and this became a common theme in literature. We can see the poverty that many people faced through images like some taken by Dorothea Lange, but also through literature. Many authors during this time portrayed the Great Depression through fictional stories. Many famous novels were written during this time period, like William Faulkner's novel, As I Lay Dying. It is about a poverty-stricken family and includes major themes like suffering. In Faulkner's early life, his family experienced the loss of financial power during the Civil War. Although this did not happen during the Great Depression, this experience influenced his novel. What happened to his family was similar to what families were going through during this time period. The Great Depression was a time of hardship. Another novel, To Have and Have Not, written by Ernest Hemingway in 1937, features themes like corruption and poverty through a story about a fishing boat captain. The Great Depression left a devastating yet influential mark on history.
Another important aspect that changed the modern era was World War II. World War II started in September of 1931 with the invasion of Poland by Germany. This invasion will lead to 6 long years in the war, including over 30 countries and 45 to 60 million people killed. The start of World War II ended the intellectual, creative, and energetic era for literature. During this time, paper production took a hit as well. Paper was not being manufactured, and paper rationing affected the production of magazines and poems. In Germany, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party began to show absolute power and dictatorship. This theme becomes a popular subject to write about. During this time, censorship was also important. Authors were censored and boundaries were set for their writings. Many books had a deeper meaning to their work in order to bypass the strict censorship laws. For example, the book Animal Farm by George Orwell uses animals to portray the common people and how they desire to overthrow the farmer or the government. Using animals allowed for him to express his opinion while avoiding punishment. When the animals take over, the pigs end up becoming the new dictators. Orwell is saying how when one bad leader is removed, a new bad leader will take over. He probably was inspired by leaders such as Hitler, who took over a terrible government only to become a dictator himself.
Queen Elizabeth II became Queen of Great Britain at the age of 25 in 1953 after her father had passed away. As Queen, she had weekly meetings with the country's prime ministers and has had a long and mainly peaceful reign. Although she is the Queen of Britain, she does not reveal her political views on matters. However, she does have duties to fulfill as Queen of not only Britain, but other smaller countries as well. She has helped evolve Britain into the Commonwealth of Nations. During the 1970s and 1980s, she traveled extensively to represent the United Kingdom at significant events, which has gained her international attention as well as widespread respect. Queen Elizabeth II has also modernized the monarchy in Britain, dropping some of its formalities and making some of its sites more accessible to the public. Today, Queen Elizabeth II is in her 80s and is seen as a responsible and diligent monarch. The people of Britain respect and admire her, holding some affection for her, especially because of her help during World War II, like being a nurse and cheering on people to stay strong. And honestly, how could you not adore that fragile smile and wave?